Welcome back to the channel. I'll be covering the best players from Burnley, Leeds United and Sunderland. Throughout this podcast, it won't be in any particular order. Towards the end though, I'll highlight my 5 favourite options, but I also want to dissect other players because you might have a different opinion after looking at their stats and also my observations about every single one of them. This will include summer signings as well, but if you want to see a separate podcast highlighting the best summer signings throughout all Premier League clubs, then let me know down in the comment section below. There's already a lot of content on the channel for you to look at, and there's going to be even more headed your way, especially when you see your fantasy returns in late August to early September. I've covered that for the last 5 years now, and it has been a blast covering it, just like it has been for FPL as well. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content, whether it's for the Champions League, Premier League, or another competition like the Club World Cup, which I also discussed throughout the summer. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships, further links to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League and Spotify can also be found in the description. And on screen you can see the first 6 fixtures for the newly promoted clubs, and throughout this video you'll see the first 4 fixtures in every single screen. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I will rank my 5 favourite options from Burnley, Leeds United and Sunderland, and that's the order and structure of the way things are going to go. So I'll start off with Burnley and the new goalkeeper signing, Max Weiss, who played for Karlsruhe SC last season in the second Bundesliga division. His ownership is only 0.2% and he kept 8 clean sheets, making 113 saves, but conceded 55 goals in the process, which is far worse than what Burnley were putting up in the Championship last season when James Trafford was outstanding for them, and of course Burnley were very solid defensively. Weiss only saved 1 penalty out of 10, but I still think he could be a decent option in certain game weeks, especially that Sunderland at home fixture in Game Week 2, but he is not really my favourite from the newly promoted clubs in terms of goalkeepers, especially to start the season. In fact, he'd probably be my least favourite pick from now until the end of the campaign, but especially when you look at Burnley's opening fixtures, which you saw at the beginning of this video, facing Tottenham away in Game Week 1, Man United away in Game Week 3, and Liverpool at home in Game Week 4. It doesn't get much easier afterwards against the likes of Nottingham Forest and Manchester City, but Weiss could be decent at some stage. Tuanzebe played for Ipswich Town last season and he now has signed for free, and he could be a decent acquisition in the defence and it might be worth considering. So he got no goals and only 1 assist in the previous campaign. He also scored an own goal and only produced 27 FPL points for Ipswich Town. He can play as a right back or in central defence, and the former Man United defender can offer a lot of experience and also versatility for a player of his age at Burnley. His ownership is only 4% and the price tag is very accessible at 4 million as well. I wouldn't really recommend him though, but Humphreys could be yet another decent defender summer signing here for Burnley. They made a lot of different signings in these positions. His ownership is 0.4% and he was on loan at Burnley last season. He scored once, got 2 assists and played 28 games. But he also got 1 red card, and that obviously is going to ring some alarm bells, but he only got booked once. So I think his disciplinary record is still pretty decent, despite the fact he was sent off on 1 occasion. He also comes in at 4 million, and if you do have a preference in terms of the best Burnley defenders, then let me know. I've got a clear standout in mind, and you'll see that very soon. But Humphreys is definitely one to monitor over the coming weeks. I think Esteve, though, is probably my favourite when it comes to defensive contribution points. He is one of those that could really translate very well from what he did in the Championship last season with tackles, blocks, clearances, and do that in the Premier League to a higher level, of course. So maybe he won't make as many defensive actions, but I think in certain games, especially the difficult ones like Liverpool at home, Esteve could be a really good option, giving you additional 2 points, even if Burnley end up conceding a few goals. So he can always kind of balance that out a little bit, but I don't fully trust Burnley, despite their defensive numbers last season, to kind of replicate what they did. They have lost some key players like Trafford, Josh Brownhill in the midfield, who offered a lot of goals. You could argue they're stronger defensively now with a lot of summer signings at left back, right back and central defence, but Esteve should start week in, week out, and he was their player of the season last time out. He only scored once, but he is a centre back after all. He played 48 games and only got booked on 3 occasions, which is very impressive, and his ownership is close to 10% at the time of this recording. The biggest appeal, of course, is that 4 million price tag, so he's probably one of my favourite fifth defender options actually, especially from newly promoted clubs, but there's one other who rivals him from yet another team. That we talked about later in this video, but Hartman was also signed for Burnley, and it seems like they have a lot of defensive depth actually with all these acquisitions. He didn't score, but got 1 assist, played 12 games, and got 0 yellow cards for Feyenoord in the previous campaign. He's also 4 million, the ownership is very low, and that is yet another appealing factor, but I would rank Esteve even higher. If it wasn't for the defensive contribution points being a factor this season, then maybe I'd think a bit differently, and Hartman would be my favourite Burnley defender, but I think he would be one to monitor, but not my favourite Burnley defender. The same goes for Kyle Walker, who is a big name, of course. He has won the Premier League on 6 occasions, I believe. His price tag is 4.5 million, so you are spending a bit more money to get him in rather than the less established names previously discussed. But I think FPL wise, it's not worth going for Walker at this price point because you could easily get a defender from a better team, or you'd have more confidence in them keeping clean sheets. Maybe Burnley will surprise people this season, and Walker's ownership is 2.4%, and it's not that high to be fair, but it's going to be significantly higher than a lot of the defenders covered in this video because he's a big name and he's one of the best right backs in Premier League history. He got no goals and no assists in the Premier League last season, only 13 points, 0 bonus, and he was sent out on loan to AC Milan for the second half of the season, and it was kind of a strange end to his Man City career. Now, Chiwana comes in from Lazio in the midfield, and he is a winger for them, but his stats are very poor. Only 2 goals and 1 assist, despite playing 37 games across all competitions, and the XGI in Serie A was 3.23, so nothing really to write home about, and I don't think he's going to score or assist that many goals, but maybe this is a move that reinvigorates his career and he starts getting so many goal contributions and he becomes a surprising option at 5 million. You never know what can happen. Sometimes a change of scenery can do someone the world of good, but based on what he did last season, I can't see him making a massive impact at Burnley from an FPL perspective. His ownership is extremely low at 0.1% and the price tag is accessible, but you can find better value elsewhere in terms of minutes and goal contributions from other midfielders amongst newly promoted clubs, which will be covered in this video, let alone all the other 17 Premier League clubs who will offer just more reliability and consistency. So I think Chiwana is one to monitor and maybe add to the watch list, but I wouldn't start this season with him, especially considering Burnley's fixtures. Now, Cullen does play in a more defensive role, so he can get some defensive contribution points, but he also gets booked very often with 11 yellow cards. He only got 2 goals and 3 assists last season in 44 games. His ownership is also 0.1% and the price tag is identical, but I would skip him. I think he'll get too many yellow cards and not enough defensive contribution points to make up for his lack of goal contributions. Brownhill would have been a decent option in FPL this season, but he's now a free agent after leaving Burnley in the summer and his contract did run down. So that was a very surprising run of events that happened for Burnley and they could miss his goals from the midfield. But next up is Hannibal, who plays in a more advanced role. He played 39 games for Burnley last season with 1 goal, 5 assists, and also 9 cards. That includes a sending off, and he's not my favourite option to say the least. He won't be featuring in the top 5 players from Leeds United, Burnley and Sunderland later in this video, but his ownership is 0.2% and the former Man United player could be one to monitor as well, but I just don't see myself investing in him in FPL. Now, Edwards joined Burnley in January and it was quite a high profile move for them at the time, and it was quite surprising he left Sporting when he did, but he only got 1 goal and 1 assist in the Championship. His XG was also very poor at 1.62, but across all competitions he got 6 goals and assists combined, and his ownership is also 0.2%, but I wouldn't be going for Edwards if you want a Burnley midfielder. Instead, I would recommend Jadon Anthony, who got 8 goals and 7 assists, and the underlying numbers are far superior. His XG, the expected goals, was 9.37, and you guessed it, the expected assists was 8.13, so that's very sustainable, and I think Jadon Anthony could get a decent number of goal contributions in the upcoming season. His price tag is a little bit higher at 5.5 million, and the ownership is 0.1%, so keep an eye out for Jadon Anthony. He is very close to making it to the best players from any newly promoted club this season, especially in the midfield. But next up is Fleming, who is one of my favourite Burnley assets overall as a 5.5 million forward. His ownership is slightly higher at 0.3%, and he scored 12 times in the Championship last time out with 4 assists, an XG figure of 9.05, and across all competitions he delivered 18 goal contributions overall, and I think he could get 10 Premier League goals this season and a couple of assists, but a lot depends on the service he gets, and I think Burnley need more quality in the winger positions and also the attacking midfield to get the best out of Fleming. But let's move on now to Leeds United. And Darlow was a 4 million goalkeeper dream, but I think that is now firmly over. He had some decent stats in the limited game time he got last season towards the very end of the campaign, and it looked like he became the number one over Ilya Meslier, who was also talked about in some of my recent videos. And Darlow only conceded 3 goals last season, made 9 saves and kept 3 clean sheets. The goals prevented figure was also quite decent at 0.74, and the ownership remains quite high at 8.2%, but that's mainly because he's a 4 million goalkeeper, and if he doesn't start, he can be your backup and maybe he'll get a surprising start here or there or cover for Perry if an injury happens. But speaking of which, that is the main goalkeeper signing for Leeds United. From Lyon, Perry can be a solid option for them at 4.5 million. With 0.2% ownership, he kept 10 clean sheets for the French Giants and he made 116 saves overall with 44 goals conceded and a goals prevented stat of 6.05, which is very impressive. And in terms of Leeds' fixtures, it's Everton at home in Gameweek 1, but then Arsenal and Newcastle in Gameweeks 2 and 3, followed by Fulham. I think longer term, their fixtures aren't too shabby. And in terms of the newly promoted clubs, Burnley have the worst opening fixtures of the lot, but Sunderland are the ones with the best, and they look far better than Leeds United, especially over the first 4 game weeks. That's the way I look at it, and Perry could be decent. The same goes for Rodon, who can get defensive contribution points. He got 1 goal and no assist last season, but Leeds United have signed a lot of defenders, and maybe Rodon could drop down to the bench or something like that could happen. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Maybe there is no chance of that happening whatsoever because he played 48 games for Leeds United last season and he kept 25 clean sheets. So he has some very impressive stats from the previous campaign. Not in terms of goals and assists though, I think that goes without saying, but the ownership is 1.9%, and at 4 million, he might be the best Leeds United defender overall. But they have made a lot of key signings, and that includes Biol from Udinese, and the Slovenian centre-back got 1 goal last season, just like Rodon, played 37 games across all competitions, and got 11 yellow cards, which is a bit of a worry. I wouldn't be investing in him FPL-wise. He might get some defensive contribution points though, to be fair, and maybe he will start alongside Rodon, but there's also Bornau from Wolfsburg, so I think they've suddenly got a bit of depth in these positions. He got 2 goals in a matter of 16 games for Wolfsburg last season, picked up 3 yellow cards, and the ownership is 0.3%, but the price tag remains 4 million, which does remain of some interest in my opinion. Now, Goodmanson would be the most attacking of the lot from open play. He got 2 goals and 1 assist for Lille last season and played 45 games, only 3 yellow cards, which is very impressive considering the game time and the amount of starts he got, and his ownership is 2%, so he could be right up there amongst the very best defenders that Leeds United have to offer, but also across any newly promoted club, and he could rival the other 4 million options from other teams across the Premier League. But next up is Struijk, who was in FPL a couple of years ago, and he wasn't particularly great, but he got 5 goals in the Championship last season and played 38 games. Only 4 yellow cards is also pretty decent, and the ownership remains quite low, but I don't think it really is justified spending 4.5 million on Struijk when you can get Goodmanson, Biol, maybe another option like Rodon, for example, at a cheaper price tag. I just don't think Struijk is worth the extra 0.5 million. The same applies to Bogle, who has some very decent stats, of course, from last season for Sheffield United. 6 goals and 4 assists in the Championship, 45 games played, and he picked up 12 yellow cards in that time frame, which is a bit of a hindrance to the bonus points potential, but I don't think you're realistically expecting that from any of these assets in the defence, and in terms of clean sheets, they could be hard to come by. Ampadu is a midfielder. He comes in at 5 million, but he can play as a centre-back and also in the holding midfield role. He got 0 goals and 0 assists in the Championship, 32 games played, and 7 yellow cards. He's not someone I'd recommend. He'll probably get some defensive contribution points from time to time, especially in the more difficult fixtures. But Leeds United have signed plenty of midfielders, and I don't think Ampadu will start as regularly. The same can apply to Tanaka, who played 49 games for Leeds United last season with 5 goals and 2 assists, 9 yellow cards, and an ownership figure of 0.5%. He can also get some defensive contribution points, but I'm not really that enthused about him FPL-wise. And they have signed Stack from Hoffenheim, who also got similar numbers, 2 goals and 2 assists in the Bundesliga, 39 games played across all competitions, and 10 yellow cards. And actually, I believe he had 1 goal in the Bundesliga and then 2 goals across all competitions. It's worth highlighting that, but his ownership is 0.1% and he's not someone I'd be highlighting as well. It's just worth talking about him. He's a summer signing, and the same goes for Sean Longstaff, who scored for Newcastle in pre-season, but he's got 0 goals in the last Premier League campaign, 1 assist, and he did get 110 FPL points in the 2023-24 campaign, but last season only 34, and he only started a handful of games because when you've got Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joelinton, that's one of the best midfields in the Premier League, and there's no chance Longstaff will start over them. His price tag is 5 million. He could offer some goals from the midfield, but I just don't think he's also really worth going for. But Leeds United have some interesting options in this position, and Harrison could be one of them. He was at Everton last season, but he has played for Leeds United in the past. He only got 1 goal and 3 assists for the Toffees last time out. The XGI was quite decent though, at 6.63, and he got 81 FPL points, and he is capable of getting over 100 FPL points. That's what he did once upon a time, and there was a big debate about him versus Rafinha, who is now competing for a Ballon d'Or. Now, I don't think Harrison will reach those levels again, but I think at Leeds United, he could up the game time and also the goals and the assists quite significantly, and he could be a decent FPL option, and he's definitely one of my favourites from these teams. Aronson will also play as an attacking midfielder, but the game time could be more limited than it was last season. He played 47 games, only got 9 goals and 2 assists, but it's not too shabby. The XGI, though, was incredible at 17.48, so more quality around him and also better finishing from Aronson would definitely help boost the goals and the assist numbers up, but to do that in the Premier League, which is such a big quality jump from the Championship, it could be quite tough. But let's not forget, the Championship is still a very tough league and it's difficult to perform in there week in, week out. But Aronson could be one to monitor at 5.5 million. But I prefer Daniel James, who has very similar numbers in terms of goals, assists, XGI, but they're all better. 12 goals, 9 assists. The expected goal involvement is 19.12, and he played 37 games for Leeds United last season, and the ownership remains very low. At 5.5 million, I would say that Daniel James is the best midfielder from either Burnley, Leeds United or Sunderland at this moment in time. And Nonto was also quite interesting a few years ago, and he's still quite young. He has potential, but he only got 9 goals and 6 assists last season with 46 games played and an XG stat of 8.24. I would rank Daniel James higher than Nonto at the moment, but that could change in the Premier League where Nonto shows his best level and goes a level above in terms of goal contributions. The price tag is the same as Daniel James and the ownership is 0.8%, and I think Nonto could definitely be one to look at. But Pirro is my favourite Leeds United attacker by some distance with 19 goals and 7 assists. He played 48 games for Leeds United last season and the XG was 17.17. He also featured in my best forwards video and he was ranked in the top 20, so be sure to check it out. And I think against Everton at home, he could be quite decent, and even against the likes of Arsenal and Newcastle, he could surprise people with some goal contributions there, and the price tag is decent at 5.5 million. But let's now talk about the final team in Sunderland, and Patterson has great fixtures to start this season, facing West Ham at home, Burnley away, Brentford at home and Crystal Palace away. So there could be 1 or 2 clean sheets there, and we might get a few upsets where Sunderland get the victory. He kept 14 clean sheets in the Championship last season, conceding 42 goals in a matter of 42 matches, and he also made 92 saves in that time frame. And I would rank him higher than Weiss at Burnley amongst these newly promoted goalkeepers, but I think longer term, Perry would be my favourite from Leeds United. I also think they've got the best chance of staying up. But Reinildo Mandava is so close when you compare him to Esteve as the best 4 million defenders from any of these teams, and they'd be right up there amongst all 4 million defenders in the game. But Reinildo was excellent in UCL Fantasy a few years ago for Atletico Madrid, and last season he got no goal contributions but played 30 games, got 7 yellow cards, and in terms of the defensive actions, he could get a lot of these points actually from time to time with these +2 for defensive contributions. So definitely keep an eye out for Reinildo Mandava. He's my favourite way of covering Sunderland defensively. Next up though is Churkin, who is currently injured and he could miss the first couple of matches. He got 3 goals and 2 assists, and the Tottenham Academy graduate played 39 games for Sunderland last time out, getting 8 yellow cards, and his ownership is 0.3%, but the price tag remains 4 million, which is very appealing. 09 is also a doubt, so I think he's going to miss the first couple of games actually, so that's going to be a big blow for Sunderland as well. He got 3 goals and 1 assist in the Championship with 49 games played and 8 yellow cards. His ownership is now 0.0, so I just wouldn't be going for 09 at all, and he could be back by Gameweek 3 against Brentford at home. I think Hume is going to be a decent option in terms of goals and assists, but is he worth 4.5 million? I don't think so, and I'd rather spend 4 million on Reinildo Mandava, who will get more defensive contribution points than Hume, but he got 3 goals and 6 assists in the Championship, which is fairly decent, 48 games played and 12 cards. That includes a sending off or 2, so I think Hume is an avoid for me, despite the fact he's got more attacking potential than most of the Sunderland defenders. Now we're going to Ballard, who is another defender at 4.5 million, and he got 2 goals and 1 assist, 24 games played and 4 yellow cards, but I just don't think Ballard is really of any particular interest. It's not worth going for him. But Granit Xhaka does come in at 5 million, and it was such a surprising move when I first saw it. 2 goals and 7 assists for Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga last season, and he got 15 goal contributions in his last Premier League season back in the 2022-23 campaign for Arsenal, and he got 153 FPL points there. But in every other season for the Gunners, he failed to get 100 FPL points, and he was getting a lot of starts, but also a lot of yellow cards, the odd red card here and there, and he didn't get that many goal contributions. But I think in his last season for Arsenal, he played a different role as a box-to-box, and that unlocked the best version of Granit Xhaka, which we also saw for Bayer Leverkusen when he helped them go unbeaten in the Bundesliga and lift that trophy, and they almost did it throughout the entire season, and it ultimately fell short in the Europa League final, and there was a big drop-off for them last season. But I think Xhaka is an excellent signing for Sunderland, and a statement signing at that, so that could be of interest in FPL as well. I also think Siddiqui could get defensive contribution points, just like Xhaka, but not as many goal contributions. He got 8 last season and played 55 games, picking up 10 yellow cards in the process. His ownership is very low at 0.1%, and I believe he could be a good signing for Sunderland, but FPL-wise, I don't think he's of much interest, and I would avoid him as well. But next up is Mundle, who is another Tottenham Academy graduate. He got 5 goals and 2 assists in the Championship with 25 games and an XG figure of 2.22, which is pretty poor, and he overperformed that, of course, with the 5 goals, but I just don't see him getting that many goal contributions in the Premier League next season. Hopefully I'm wrong about some of these players, but I don't have too much faith in the likes of Mundle in FPL for the 2025-26 campaign, and the fee can play as a striker, but he would be out of position, of course, if he played in that 4-4-2 formation just alongside Mayenda as the main choice up front, and his price tag is 5 million, low ownership at 1.4%, but only 1 goal and 1 assist in a matter of 11 starts, and he picked up 4 yellow cards, so he got more bookings than goal contributions. But maybe Lafy makes that big jump this season, and a lot of this will be ifs, buts and maybes, I think, with the Championship clubs. But those were his stats from last season. I wouldn't be recommending him, and there are certainly better options like Talby, who was signed from Club Bruges, and in UCL Fantasy he had his moments. He got 2 goals in that competition and an assist, and across all competitions he got 12 goals and assists combined. But in the Belgian league, 5 goals and 3 assists is decent, nothing to write home about. He played a lot of games though, so don't expect too much consistency when it comes to those all-important goal contributions. His ownership is 0.2%, but amongst these Sunderland midfielders, he would rank quite highly overall. I think the same can be said about Diarra, but he is 5.5 million, which puts me off. He got 9 goal contributions last season, created 9 big chances, and also picked up 6 yellow cards, so he can mix a few goals and assists here and there with bonus points and defensive contributions, and he's also a massive differential, and the same can be said about most of these players except Esteve and Reinildo Mandava, who are 2 of the best options amongst any of these newly promoted clubs. And Roberts was from Manchester City actually once upon a time. He got 2 goals and 8 assists for Sunderland last time out in 48 games, and the XGI is quite healthy at 12.05, but not the best from any of the players I've talked about. Look at Daniel James, for example, Aronson, and a few other midfielders, but I think Roberts could be one of the better options offensively for Sunderland, but he's not my favourite, especially after a few summer signings, and there is one in the midfield in Adingra, who played for Brighton last season, and he is currently on loan. He got 2 goals and 3 assists in FPL last time out in 12 starts and he got 60 FPL points. But I think there is a lot of potential in there. He can play on both flanks. And I think Adingra could be a top quality signing for Sunderland. And he also narrowly misses out on the best options overall. But Mark Guiu is on loan from Chelsea. And as a 4.5 million forward, we could have a regular starter who could be the perfect 8th attacker, so it's definitely one to monitor. In the Premier League, he got 0 goals and 0 assists and only 3 FPL points because the game time was so limited. But in the Conference League, he scored a hat-trick and got 6 goals in that competition. So I think he could get some good numbers for Sunderland if he becomes the main striker. But at this moment in time, it is Mayenda, who cost 5.5 million. He got 8 goals and 5 assists in the Championship, and the XG was 9.53. Across all competitions, he got 15 goals and assists combined, but I wouldn't be going for him. I think Mark Guiu would be better. So at number 5, I would rank Fleming as one of the best forwards from a newly promoted club, but he's not number 1 because, as I mentioned in all my videos, I would give that to Peru? You tell me down in the comment section below, but he got 19 goals and 7 assists in the Championship. All those stats were great. I did talk about him, of course, in multiple videos, not just this one, but I think he'd be one of the best attackers from any of these squads. I'd be favouring Mark Guiu, though, as the best striker because of the price tag, really, at 4.5 million and nothing else. If he was priced at 5.5 million like Fleming and Peru, then he would be ranked even lower, of course, but the price tag plays a huge part. And in terms of the midfield, because none of them do feature in this top 5, I think Daniel James is my favourite, and the other Leeds United options like Nonto could also be of significant interest. But the top 2 options include Esteve for the defensive contribution points. I think he's a really good option. And the same goes for Anildo Mandava, who has a proven track record in UCL Fantasy, and we could see the same thing happen again in FPL. We have reached the end of this video and podcast covering the best players from newly promoted clubs in Burnley, Leeds United and Sunderland, with a top 5 ranking towards the end of this podcast. And my favourite midfielder would be Daniel James, but maybe you've got someone else in mind for every single position. Differentials and budget picks have been covered though, and I have made separate videos for those 2 categories. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content, whether it's for FPL or UCL Fantasy. Follow me on X, Instagram and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships, for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you very soon for even more FPL content, and keep your eyes peeled for the Gameweek 1 deadline stream.